first information session this evening. Thank you for coming. I'd like to introduce you to a long-time music department member here, Cindy Butil, and Cindy is going to talk about why play a musical instrument and why it's important. So I'll hand over to you now, Cindy. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session this evening. I apologise for using a microphone. I'm sure you could all hear me very clearly, but for Mr. Joe over here with the video camera, it makes the sound much easier for him to listen to, for him to record. So, our session today, I hope you've all had a look at the survey, and I'd like you just to maybe share your thoughts with the person sitting next to you or around you, please. See if you agree. So, true and false. Anybody would like to share which ones they thought were not true, that were false? Yes. You said false to that one. Quite a few people had said false to that one. Yeah, provides an academic challenge. Anybody else have ones that maybe they didn't think were true on there? Yeah. It's a very good question. A very good question. Anyone else think ones were false? They will help to get into university. Good. Thank you. Okay, well, actually, all of the statements are true. Some of them obviously are more true than others. The one we talked about, the academic challenge, that there's a very skillful level with playing an instrument, and certainly in younger years there's an academic challenge of being able to play music accurately and being able to count beats. But as you go on to more advanced music, there's a very deep, fundamental, and emotional response where you do need a lot of language to be able to respond to that, to be able to be critical about that. So I would think that is actually true, that there is an academic challenge there. And the other one about getting into college, obviously it depends slightly where you go to college, but any college will welcome an all-round student. And one of the ways of a well-rounded student, the whole child approach, is the arts. And I think some people would argue that without an appreciation and some experience of the arts, a child is not the whole child, a well-rounded child. So, like I say, these statements are all true. Some are obviously a little bit more true than others. So these are the articles that the questions came from. So what I did with this survey, I did a sampling of student responses and teachers and administrators and music teachers at ISB and parents. So the responses that I got was a sampling from that, and you'll see the numbers in a minute. So the other question that was asked on the survey was which one or ones of the points in the survey do you think are the most important? So if you would just like to have a look at it and maybe mark down a couple of the reasons that you think are the most important. Again, if you'd like to share your thoughts with the person sitting, maybe the person sitting behind you or in front of you this time. All right, we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so as we go on through this then, I had a captive audience with middle school students. They had to do the survey. They didn't really have a choice. So there were quite a few responses for this one. And this is what middle school students thought they were studying when they studied music in a performing ensemble. This is what they thought was important. Number 5, number 7, and number 20. What I thought was interesting here was that they were looking at this, and it seemed like they'd heard the message that habits are important. Maybe their parents had told them habits were important, and this is what they're hearing. And they thought this was this. It felt a little bit like they were saying the things that they probably should say, why it's important to play an instrument. Going on to high school students, again, there was a captive audience. They were in the class. They had to do the survey. So there were quite a number of responses to that. So they thought number 2, number 3, and number 7 was important. What was interesting, I thought, looking from the middle schoolers to the high schoolers, was that by the time students get to high school, it seems like they're starting to make some decisions for themselves, that they're choosing to do an ensemble because it's something they actually want to do, something they get a lot out of, and they can feel the benefits themselves. That's what I understood from what they were looking at there. Going on to parents. Number 3, number 6, and number 14. Did any of you choose those ones? Yes? Yeah? 3? No? Yeah? Yeah? Any other ones? Number 20 as well, yeah? And number 18, yes? It was quite a high percentage that thought it should be enjoyable, it should be fun. But then the long-term benefits of being able to appreciate music and the arts throughout their life, that was a good one to have in there. It does need to be enjoyable, that's for sure. Music teachers. So my colleagues very kindly filled this in as well. We were pretty overwhelmingly on 2 points here. This is what we certainly think that we're trying to instill in students when they come into an ensemble, that you do need to build good habits, and you've got to stick with it. Okay, it's very important to do that. Team building skills. Then our school administrators. Number 3 again. Number 13, number 14, and number 17. Team building starts to come in here. Okay, so with your responses, I hope you felt that your responses kind of fitted in a lot with the things that were said there. So when we look at the ensemble programs that we have at ISB, in our school, instrumental ensembles are an elective. In a lot of schools, they're mandatory, but at ISB, they are a choice. All the students have a choice of joining or not joining. And just as a comparative, the APAC schools, which is I can never remember what APAC actually stands for, Association Pacific. Anyway, it's the one that the high school, that many of the high school sports teams go to, and it's 7 comparable schools in the Asian region. And if we look at those schools there, in 10 out of the 12 schools, at some point of the child's journey through the school, instrumental music is mandatory. They all have to choose something at one point. Then they can opt out later on if they want to, but there is a point where everybody has to do something. So 10 out of the 12 schools are in that category there. So in the middle school at ISB, we have a band, a choir, and an orchestra program. And as you can see here are the numbers. So 32% of middle school students are in band or orchestra, and that goes up to 38% if we include the choir students, which is also a performing ensemble. So it's a good percentage of the middle school that choose to do a performing ensemble. So, very nice, but what does it tell us? So, from a music teacher's point of view, we want to be thinking, okay, how do we encourage more students to join ensembles? Because obviously as music teachers, we think it's a really good thing. We think there's a lot of benefits from it, so what should we be doing? So, this is what students probably need to do and to understand. You look through those quickly. The thing that jumps out to me from this is that a student needs to stay with an instrument. It doesn't do anybody any good to start one instrument one year, start another one another year, start another one, to keep jumping from place to place. To choose something and to stay with it. It's going to be hard work, but to really try it with that perseverance. That's what jumps out at me from this one. What all of us as music teachers should be looking at. Have a quick look through those ones. What jumps at me from these ones here is the praise students who persevere, that we need to recognize and reward in various different ways students who stay with a program, who keep working hard and commit to it year after year after year. That's what jumps out at me from that list there. Parents. The two that jump out to me here are the encouraging ones, encouraging good practice habits. Nobody's ever going to get better at a musical instrument unless they practice regularly. So it's that regular practice and keeping with it, that's what pays off in the end. And encourage your child to stay with a program. And then our school administrators, this is what I think they should be thinking about when they look at an ensemble program. Team building skills. Now the bottom two here, EAL, English as Another Language. Any student can be successful in a music ensemble, and you don't have to have a high level of English to be able to do that. For a student that comes into school that maybe their English isn't that strong, this is a place where a child can be successful without needing to use the language all the time. And learning support students that maybe struggle a little bit in other areas of school, they can come into an ensemble and they can be really successful. So it's a very, very good way for students like that to be a success that then has a knock-on effect in other areas of their life. So our final thoughts on this, that you will hear a lot about the Learning 21 wheel and the kind of skills that we're developing through different education programs at the school. And we would certainly argue that all of these very important skills that will guide children through their life at school and into the future, you can find in a music ensemble classroom. You can learn all of these skills there. So, are there any quick questions? We've got about 1 minute for questions. If anybody has a question or a point they'd like to raise. Yes. It depends very much which ensemble they're in, and different levels of ensemble will play a different quantity of music. So a more advanced group will get through much more repertoire in a year than a less advanced group like that. So it does vary from year to year and from ensemble to ensemble. We usually have a program of about 4 concerts during a year, and I would say that most groups would do 3 or 4 pieces for each concert. That's roughly where we do, and there may be some extra ones as well. Yeah. No, it's every other day. Every other day. And there's 3 levels. Okay? Yeah. If you like, we can talk a little bit more about that just afterwards, if you'd like, because it's a good question. Thank you. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the evening, and I know many of your children are in ensembles, so we look forward to seeing you at lots of the performing arts events during the year. Thank you very much.